I want to welcome you to this program on Eagle Communications Channel 2, and this is Abilene Means Business. And this is our monthly show where we highlight an Abilene Area Chamber of Commerce member and kind of talk a little bit about their business organization, what they do in the community, and what it's like to do business here. And I'm sure you've, I don't know how many of these shows we've done now. We're probably approaching our first year of doing the show, so we've had at least one a month. So I think we've covered a lot of ground. But today, I want to talk about one of the hidden treasures or gems, and I say hidden. Maybe that's not the right word to use, but maybe that's just because of location. But the Dickinson County Historical Society, and if you don't know where that is, it's located east of the Eisenhower Presidential Library and Museum. Also near Old Abilene Town, but it is you go into the building and you'll be surprised at the things you find there. And today I have the executive director. I guess is that the correct title?
Yes, it is.
Jeffrey Sheets, and good to have you.
Nice to have you and be invited to the program.
Absolutely. And how many years have you been there? You've been
This will be
for a long time.
my 23rd year.
Wow.
At the Heritage Center.
Yeah.
So
you've seen a lot of things change over.
There's been a lot of additions and things change over the years, and we're continuing to work to improve. So.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's this historical society here. When I first came to town, they told me it was kind of a unique facility in that you have a contract with the county for the storage of documents. Is that? Tell a little bit about the history, about how it all came about, and then that little.
Well, the Historical Society was established back in 1928 with the premise that we wanted to preserve the history of Dickinson County, be it written documents, three-dimensional artifacts, or whatever. And so they started to collect personal writings. We had families that we have an annual meeting. They would come to the annual meeting, present a history of their family, of their community, and those documents were then recorded, and that was kind of the basis of our archives. And then in 1955, the Historical Society was given a room in the bottom of the new courthouse. It was been housed here in the library, but for years. And then when they built the new courthouse, they said you can have a room until we need it. It took about 10 years before they needed that room. And by that 10 years, the Historical Society had continued to collect their artifacts and archives, and they were ready to look for a larger place. In 1969, they purchased a building that we have today. It was originally built as a car museum, and then they closed the museum down, and the building was given to the Eisenhower Foundation, which we bought it from the Eisenhower Foundation. And that was the beginning of the Dickinson County History Museum. And then in 1970, the United Telephone Company came to the Historical Society and says, we know that half your buildings are dirt floor, and if you would allow us to put our museum in your building, we would finish that floor and create the Museum of Independent Telephony, which the Historical Society agreed to do that. And United, if people don't know, then became known as Sprint.
Right.
And we've had a good working relationship with United and with Sprint up until about 2008. And we have a very unique situation. We have two museums within one building. Mm-hmm. We have the County History Museum, and we have the County, or the Museum of Independent Telephony. Meanwhile, we continued to collect artifacts, and in 1979, the Historical Society got a mill levy from the county to build a archive vault with the premise that we would then store different county records, such as the tax records. We have probate records. We have different organizational records from the county in there, as well as we started collecting businesses records, our civic group organizations. We have many of them, their archives in our vault. We also entered into an agreement with the Abilene High School where we store the student transcript records. The school keeps them for 5 years, then they transfer them down to the Historical Society, and that we can keep them in our vault at that point in time. It's been kind of humorous. People come back, out of high school for 7 years, because now I'm an artifact, I'm in the Historical Society. But so our archive vault, we have tons of records in photographs. We have personal records. People have given us family diaries, family journals. So we have a lot of collections like those that we keep. And so we have also created our research center within the Heritage Center that we have obituaries, and we have records of marriages and deaths and different things like that, so people can come in and do family research at the Heritage Center. And then
and United Telephone, what was the attraction to Abilene, for those who don't know?
Well, United Telephone actually got started in 1899 by Cleason Leroy Brown, or better known as C.L. Brown, started the Brown Telephone Company here in Abilene. And then he continued to buy up and start up other telephone companies and became known as United Telephone. Right. But CL also got into his hands into other businesses. There was at one time he had several utility companies, so it became known as United Utilities. Then got into like Piggly Wiggly's. He had 85 different businesses that he continued to manage, and became known as United Companies. And then it became United Telecommunications once again. And then I think it was in 1990, they merged with another telephone company and became known as Sprint.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and the Piggly Wigglies, I mean, it was kind of funny when I found out there was actually one here, because of course normally you think about that as being in the South, right? They're still
driving with Daisy.
Right. They're still Piggly Wigglies down in the South, but they started that chain started here, correct? So
but C.L. Brown, during the Depression, of those 85 companies that he managed, only like 4 or 5 went under. And he continued to keep all the other ones afloat. Some of it was using his personal finances. When he died in the 1930s, he was broke personally, but his companies continued to flourish.
I heard he created an accounting nightmare. Yes, what I understand. Yes. But he, like you said, he kept them all going.
But one of the things that he gave to the community was Browns Park. In the 20s, when they built the Browns Park, that was the amusement park of the day. Not the amusement that we have today, but they had lakes, they had paddle boats, you had fishing out there, you had 2 golf courses, you had a zoo, you had the Sea Scouts training ship out in the middle of the lake, you had the Boy Scout camp, you had the girls camp. And they said that any given Sunday in the summer, there would be close to 20,000 people out there. And someone asked him about why he did that. And the quote that I found was that he said that men spend all their life acquiring their wealth just to buy 6 foot of property, and then they don't get to see what people enjoy. Because I want to see the people enjoy what I have, so that's why he built that, so people could go out there and enjoy it, and he could see them enjoy it.
Well, and throughout the year you have lots of different events out there, and of course the crown jewel of them is the Chisholm Trail Days. Right. And that's coming up. I know there's a lot of planning. I've been involved in some of the planning of that. Tell us a little bit about what that event is, and an interesting topic you and I have talked about is the longevity of some of the reenactor or the people that are showing things. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, our Chisholm Trail Festival started 38 years ago as kind of a heritage festival. What we tried to do is highlight different folk crafts. And when we first started, we used local volunteers who come in and demonstrate quilting, demonstrated chair caning, blacksmithing, all these different folk crafts. And we can continue to do that. We've added many different things. Over the years, we obtained an old sawmill powered by a tractor that we can demonstrate a working sawmill. We have the antique car show now. We have the antique tractor show. People come out for. I think one of the highlights for me is when we get to run our 1901 C.W. Parker carousel with the steam engine.
Right.
We do that once a year during the festival, and people come out and take a ride on the carousel that is operated by the steam engine that day. Then we have live entertainment. We have usually a music stage, and then we have a history stage where with the history stage we try to get reenactors to come in and talk about a historic character in first person most of the time, and things. Try to get things going for everybody to come out and enjoy the history of Dickinson County.
Yeah, and if you haven't been when the sawmill is running. That's quite something to see, and you can tell it looks like a hazardous job. I'm sure back in the 1870s, people lost all kinds of limbs doing that, but all the safety precautions are taken. But it's really neat to see all that machinery work, and then the blacksmith shop, and it's all belt driven through. And anyway, it's really a neat thing to see.
Yeah. The interesting thing about our blacksmith shop, the equipment that's in there, most of that came from the Carlton blacksmith shop in Carlton, Kansas, in the southern part of the county. And like you said, it's built and driven. We have different conveyor belts running, and it's interesting to see it all run by one machine.
Yeah, I know. It's really it's really kind of neat. And when you go to there, you're going to see people actually working. Working the forge, the smithies are going to be there doing their thing.
Correct.
With anvils, so you can actually figure out what an anvil is actually used for, other than dropping a coyote off a cliff. So
or shooting it up in the air.
Right. And it's really kind of neat, but it's also a lost art, right? It's something that's
a dying art, I guess. One thing that we're trying to develop right now, and we call it, for lack of a better term, an apprentice program, is trying to find people that would be willing to teach a craft to someone younger.
Right.
A lot of our demonstrators are getting up in their age. They're either retiring or they're dying.
Yeah.
And we don't want to lose those crafts forever. And if we can get people within the county interested and come in and take 2 or 3 lessons and get interested in it, we're hoping that will help spur the learning of that craft.
Sure.
So and try to keep those going.
Yeah, and I've talked. There's probably a handful of people that I've talked to that are in their mid 30s, early 40s that would be very interested in doing that sort of thing, and those folks are settled in. They're settled in their life. They're not moving around a lot, and they talk about experience tourism. Mm-hmm. What could be more experience than learning a dying art trade? And it's just cool to be at a dinner party and say, oh yeah, I can use a forge. I know what I'm doing.
Right.
But also just to keep it alive, get people that are interested in doing it, and being a part of the Chisholm Trail Days Festival.
Right.
For a long time. So I think there's an interest in it, and if there's anybody out there interested in anything like that, give Jeff a call.
Yeah, they contact the Heritage Center, and that number is 785-263-2681 if they want to call. So we're always down there and looking for people to step in and help out.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things there. I mean, and it's not, we've just talked about. We just talked about the blacksmithing and the sawmill, but what are some of the other crafts that maybe doesn't take as much skill, but that's things that people can learn there.
Well, we've discussed and we need to go out and find people to do it, but, spinning yarn, weaving, the chair caning that we have one lady that does that here in the county. So there's, a whole, rope making might be another one. So those are, types of things that, we can work on, and I'm sure there's others. Quilting. There's a lot of quilters out here that learn how to quilt and why we quilt. But it's
and I think another annual program that you have that's very popular is the Pioneer Camp.
Yes.
And I guess kids are signed up, 7 years in advance for this.
Well, not quite.
They get born. They get born at the Abilene Hospital. They give them a form to fill out to get signed up for it. I mean, so it's a couple of years in advance, right?
Yeah, we got a waiting list started for next year, 2017, and I hate to say it, but 2018 we're starting. People say, "Well, I'd like to get mine on here." So I thought that, just today, my grandson's going to be eligible in 2018, so I better get him on the list.
Pencil his name in real quick. Right?
But this was our 28th year of the Pioneer Camp, and it went from a 1-week camp to a 2-week camp. We take 24 campers each week, and they come in for a day camp from 9 to 1 each day. And one of their duties or chores is to go into the kitchen of the cabin and help prepare a meal for lunch on our wood burning stove. We have a little small garden that they go out and get some of the vegetables out of that, and then we do different other activities each day, from doing pioneer games of like pushing the hoop with a stick, to spinning and weaving. We do corn grinding, shelling, demonstrate blacksmithing. We don't let the kids in there actually pound on the metal, but they can get to watch. We go to a school one day, a one-room schoolhouse that this year we're hoping to use the one that's at the Heritage Center. After 13 years, it's almost completed. So one day we go out on the prairie and talk about prairie plants and identifying plants and things and how pioneers would use those plants. So it's a full week of activities, and like you said, it's been very popular, and people are calling up now for next year already, because this year's already full. So.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and that's that's just really just a snippet. I mean, myself, I'm a genealogy nut. You know that about me, and so the wealth of resources that are down there. If you have any curiosity at all about your family history here in Dickinson County, that's the place to go. You'll find things you didn't even know existed, maybe even some photos here and there, and that's in the archives. It's all open to the public, most of it to look at, and there, there's some friendly folks down there to kind of show you around and get your feet wet a little bit in it. So, but something else that's fairly new, the last 2 or 3 years, has been the Jeffcoat Museum. And kind of tell us a little bit about your relationship with them and how all that kind of came about.
Bill Jeffcoat was a photographer here at Abilene. He was a third-generation photographer. His grandmother got started. His dad was a photographer. His dad called him up and said, "I need help." So he came home back to Abilene. He was running around in New York and places like that. Came back and was going to only spend a couple of months here helping his dad, and he ended up spending his whole life here as a photographer. And Bill acquired some wealth over the years. He bought stock in Kodak and sold it before Kodak
at the right time.
But before Bill passed away, he came to the Historical Society and says, "I would like to turn my shop into a museum," and asked if the Historical Society would manage that as a museum. So they set up a organization called the Jeffcoat Memorial Foundation. And through the working with the foundation, we have entered into a management agreement that we would manage the museum. And it is a wealth of information, especially photographic histories of Abilene, family histories, because Bill took tons and tons of portraits. Family portraits, senior portraits. We have baby portraits. You name it. He took those pictures, and unfortunately, Bill didn't keep great records. Maybe we would have boxes of pictures with no names on them. And if you're from Abilene, get the Abilene Reflector Chronicle newspaper. Once a week, there's a picture of a person. Do you know who this is?
Right.
And that's been a very positive for us. Of people, I think it's this. No, I get that. And we also use the Facebook. They can go on the Jeffcoat Photography Facebook page, and there's several pictures on there, for identification. And then there's pictures of those that we have identified. Yep. So, but it's a wealth of information. Like I said, 3 generations of photographs in the Jeffcoat collection. And the interesting is that if your family had a picture taken at Jeffcoat and you want to go down there, you find it, you want a copy of it, we'll make one for free of those photographs that are within our collection. So it's I know last year we had a class reunion that they came in and we got a picture of each of their seniors out of the yearbook and had a picture of all of them on the walls, and had the reunion come in and they went through and looked at there, and they said, "Can you believe that haircut?"
Yeah, but that was really neat for them to walk in there.
And they really enjoyed doing that. So we like to encourage more class reunions, and might think about doing that and contacting the Jeffcoat Museum for that purpose. But it's a great wealth of information of, like I said, photographic history of Abilene.
Yeah.
So.
And the Jeffcoat, I know people that will go on Facebook and they're waiting for today's Thursday, and they post a photo, their Throwback Thursday photo, and it always generates some interest and talk from people, and it's really good that that's being shared that way to people, but if you haven't been down there, it's a wonderful place to go into there. And I also hear that there's boxes and boxes and boxes of photos that no one's really gone through and really knows exactly what's in them. So so there may be some treasures in there that I know they're continuously archiving them and trying to identify those.
They've probably archived over, I don't think it's a stretch, over 4,000 photographs so far, and there's a lot more to go. So but they, we have a curator down there that works 3 days a week, and they're there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So if you want to come in, it's open those 3 days year round, and we'll be glad to go through and look at photographs and say, I think my mom had her picture taken here. We can look things like that up and see from there. And like I said, if we can find one. I found one of my mother-in-law when she was a baby, standing by this little chair, and the chair's still there. And it was probably back in 1912 or 13. She's standing by the little chair, so it's interesting. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, we're getting kind of short on time, but there is just one last thing I wanted to bring up, and I went on it in October. You had the cemetery tour, and I guess that's something you'd done in the past, but it was recently revived, and it was I think you had 3 or 4 groups of people go up there and walk through it, and tell us a little bit about that. And I think it was extremely interesting and something that's going to become a good mainstay for.
It got started. I used to take do a cemetery walk where I just went, we met at the cemetery and we'd go to different headstones, and I'd tell a little bit of history of that person. My whole idea was someday I want to have people dress as those personalities at those headstones, so they could tell the story in a first-person way. And last year we decided, okay, Jeff, we're going to do this for you. And we worked with the high school drama class. We got several, I think we had 6 stops. We had 6 students dressed up and portrayed, different people. We had T.C. Henry, we had Tom Smith, let's see, who else we have?
Little.
Theophilus Little, Mrs. Seeley.
Mrs. Seeley.
And there was a couple more, but anyway, we had, we walked around and we did it at evening, so we had candlelight tours, and it worked out really great. And as our first time, and there's always things to tweak, but it was really well received. Everyone that went on the tour really loved those, and so we're planning this year already, and I think our date's October 29th this year. We don't want it to be a horror
right. It's not
tour.
a haunted house.
It's not haunted house. It's a dignified tour, but it's in the evening, and we walk around and talk about some of the interesting people that's buried in the Abilene Cemetery, which and we have a lot of people to choose from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, I went on the tour and I was very impressed with it as a first run in that format, and I think it's something that's going to become popular. I think it's really a neat thing, and I appreciate it. So anyway, we really only we kind of blew over a lot of things, and Jeff is a encyclopedia on all things Dickinson County and beyond. So I appreciate you coming. And
thank you for inviting me, and love to talk about the Heritage Center. If anybody is interested, they come down and take a tour, or they can become a member of the Dickinson County Historical Society and come down to the Heritage Center and sign up. Yeah, and the website and phone number will be on the screen. So you might kind of share what that is real quick. Well, the phone number is 785-263-2681, and the website is www.heritagecenterdk.com. Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much, and I'll tell you, it's one of the gems of Abilene. If you've never been there or you haven't been in a long time, it's well worth the time to go down to that facility, and then of course the Jeffcoat as well. And go see all the neat things downtown on Broadway Street there. So anyway, once again, I just want to thank Jeff for being our guest today. And we'll be wrapping it up here. I'm actually going to be coaching T-ball next week. So that tells you what time it is in the year. All the kids are getting out of school this week. And so I hope you have an eventful and hopefully safe summer with the kids. Get out there and enjoy yourselves. So from the Abilene Area Chamber of Commerce, I'm James Holland, and you have been watching Abilene Means Business.